The banquet hall glittered beneath crystal chandeliers, laughter bouncing off marble walls, glasses clinking in celebration of wealth and power. The air was thick with perfumes and polished shoes tapping to the rhythm of a live orchestra. Every corner whispered luxury, every table overflowed with fine wines and extravagant dishes. Yet in the far corner, standing quietly near the entrance, was a young man in a modest suit. His shoes were worn at the edges, his tie a little too plain for the occasion. He stood with quiet dignity, yet his presence felt out of place among silk and diamonds. Suddenly, a booming laugh cut across the room. A well-known business tycoon, silver hair glinting under the lights, raised his glass and pointed toward the young man. His voice carried authority mixed with mockery. "You, the son of a laundry woman? Tell me, what could you possibly offer in a room like this?" The hall erupted with chuckles. Some covered their mouths politely, others openly laughed. A few cameras clicked, catching the awkwardness of the moment. The young man's heart pounded in his chest, but his eyes did not flinch. He inhaled deeply and stepped forward, voice calm yet piercing. "I speak 9 languages, sir." The tycoon almost spilled his drink, laughing louder. 9 languages? And what for? To scrub shirts in 9 dialects. More laughter followed, bouncing cruelly around the hall. But the young man did not waver. His gaze softened, and he spoke with quiet strength. "My mother washed clothes so I could wash away ignorance. Her hands bled so mine could turn pages. She cleaned fabric, her sacrifice gave me words, words to speak to anyone, anywhere." A hush fell. The mocking smiles faded. And then, the doors opened, and a foreign ambassador rushed in, speaking a language no one understood. Steam fogged the cracked window of a tiny laundry shop. Inside, a frail woman bent over a basin, scrubbing shirts until her knuckles split. The rhythm of her work was broken only by the cough she tried to hide and the creak of a wooden stool where her son sat, book in hand. He was barely 12, reading aloud in broken syllables, his tongue stumbling over foreign words. She lifted her tired face, sweat streaking across her temples, and smiled despite her exhaustion. "Son," she whispered, dipping a shirt back into the soapy water, "learn these words. Someday, the world will need your voice. Not mine." When neighbors passed by, they shook their heads. "Why waste money on books? He'll end up like you." But the woman only scrubbed harder, her silence fiercer than their scorn. At dawn, she pressed his uniform, still damp, her fingers raw from the night's work. "Speak for those who cannot," she told him, kissing his forehead. "That is your inheritance." The boy studied beneath flickering streetlights, repeating strange sounds into a second-hand tape recorder. His mother often fell asleep in the corner, soap clinging to her hands, her body curled against fatigue. Years later, inside a glittering banquet hall, those nights returned to him in flashes. The laughter of the wealthy faded, replaced by echoes of his mother's voice. Standing tall among silk suits and polished gowns, he whispered under his breath, "Mother, tonight, your dream speaks." But the tycoon had noticed his trembling lips. Leaning forward, eyes narrowing, he struck with cruelty. "You saved strangers tonight, boy. But tell me, what do you have to show for it? Words don't buy houses. Words don't buy dignity." The crowd stiffened. The son's fists curled. His reply carried the weight of every bruise on his mother's hands. "Sir," the young man began, his voice calm yet sharp with emotion, "words built every bridge you have ever crossed. Words signed every deal you've ever celebrated. Words created the contracts that made you rich, the speeches that made you powerful. The banquet hall froze. No orchestra, no clinking glasses, only the steady cadence of his voice. He looked around the room, his eyes sweeping across jeweled necks and manicured hands. My mother never held a degree. She held laundry soap. She didn't speak English, French, or Mandarin. She spoke one language, sacrifice. And because of her, I can speak 9. Because of her, I can speak for those who have no voice. The tycoon shifted uncomfortably, his smirk faltering. He tried to chuckle, but it came out thin, brittle. You think poverty is weakness, the young man continued, his voice rising with conviction. I say poverty was my university. Every shirt she scrubbed, every blister she hid from me, was a scholarship. Every tear she swallowed, every insult she endured, was a lecture in courage. Gasps rippled. Some eyes welled with tears. The ambassador stood slowly, raising his glass. To the mother who raised not just a linguist, but a bridge between nations. Applause thundered, echoing through the chandelier-lit hall. Cameras flashed like lightning, capturing the boy who had transformed humiliation into honor. But amid the ovation, his eyes glistened with quiet sorrow. Because he knew the truth, his mother, the one person who deserved this applause most, was not there to hear it. Or so he believed. The next morning, the young man's story was everywhere. Headlines flashed across screens, "Laundry woman's son speaks 9 languages, saves thousands." Reporters swarmed the banquet hall's steps, microphones thrust forward, cameras flashing endlessly. He stood among them, holding his worn satchel close, his modest suit still wrinkled from the night before. The applause of the world felt strange, almost heavy. For in his heart, there was only one person he wanted to share it with. Through the chaos, a fragile hand pushed through the crowd. A shawl wrapped tightly around her shoulders, eyes tired yet shining with pride. His breath caught. His mother. She looked smaller than he remembered, her frame stooped, her hands still roughened from years of soap and water. She whispered, almost afraid the moment wasn't real. They're clapping for you. His knees buckled as he dropped before her, clutching her hands against his face. Tears streamed freely. No, Mama. They're clapping for you. For every shirt, every night you stayed awake. Every blister that carried me here. You spoke through me. The cameras captured it all, her cracked palms against his tear-streaked cheeks, the world pausing to witness a truth too powerful to ignore: greatness is never born alone. Dignitaries stepped forward, bowing to her. A garland of flowers was draped across her shoulders. She wept quietly, overwhelmed, as her son leaned close and whispered in her ear. Last night, the world heard 9 languages. But my favorite will always be yours, Mama, the language of sacrifice. In the shadows, the tycoon watched silently. His jaw tightened, his chest heavy. For the first time in decades, he envied not wealth, not applause, but the simple, unshakable love between a mother and her son. Weeks later, at a grand summit filled with the world's most powerful leaders, the young man stood at the podium. Cameras rolled, thousands watched, but his voice carried no pride, only truth. I am not here as a prodigy, he began. I am here as proof. Proof that humility is strength, that sacrifice speaks louder than wealth. My mother taught me that language is not just words, it is service. It is kindness. The hall grew still. Every eye was on him. He lifted his hand, trembling slightly. My dream is not to be rich. My dream is to build schools where children like me can learn, not for power, not for status, but to become bridges of understanding." Applause rose, thunderous and unrelenting. Some leaders wiped tears from their eyes. And then, slowly, the tycoon who once mocked him stood. His voice was rough, humbled. "Forgive me, son. I measured wealth in numbers. Tonight, you showed me it is measured in humanity." He reached for his checkbook, but the young man gently closed it, shaking his head. "No, sir. Not donations. Walk with me. Let us build together." And in that moment, the hall erupted, not in laughter, but in unity.